So the subject that we're talking about now is what can be referred to as object motion, or in a physics class, it might be called kinematics. Okay? How many of y'all have already taken physics last year, or you already covered kinematics last semester in a physics class? All right, good. So a good half of you, at least maybe more than half of you. Okay? Now, we are not going to talk about motion in all of the ways that you talk about motion in a physics class. There are some features of motion that you'll talk about in a physics class that are too advanced for AP Calculus, so we're not going to talk about those. Like, we won't talk about force at all. We're going to sum force up into our math language, okay? But we're not going to specifically talk about force. We're not going to do a calculation of force or any of that, okay? However, there are some qualities about motion that where in your physics class you only scratch the surface, but in this class we're going to dive really deep, okay? So basically what we're doing is we're taking one piece of what you learned about kinematics in physics, and we're going to take that one piece and we're going to go as deep as we can into it. Okay? Are we doing okay so far? Go ahead.
Is this under
application? No, it is related to optimization. However, it is a separate topic. It is what is referred to as an application of derivatives. Optimization is an application of derivatives. Related rates is an application of derivatives. So this is our third application of derivatives. Yep, this is our third. I don't want to tell you yet. Okay, can you save room for the header? Is that okay? Yeah, that's fine. Application, it doesn't matter. When I eventually say it, it's fine. If you put this there, that's great too. But when we get there, you could on the side in big letters, you're using to write. I don't want to tell you what it's called yet, okay? Because what it is called is something that requires a lesson, and that lesson isn't ready until I'm done with these four qualities. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so an object moving through space. I need you thinking about what an object moving through space is. And what I need you to do is, I need you to broaden your view of what an object moving through space is. A Nerf dart flying through the air is an object moving through space. However, an object does not have to be traveling fast to be moving. The object does not have to be sailing through the air to be moving. Okay? You are an object moving through space. Now, right now, you're not really moving, not that much, right? But when you walk down the hallway, you are an object moving through space. These chairs that you're sitting in are objects moving through space. They get pulled out, they get pushed in, they get picked up and flipped over. These chairs are objects moving through space. In your body, as you breathe air in, though you can't see it, you are sucking molecules of oxygen and nitrogen into your body. You guys took chemistry, yes, or something like? Okay, yeah. That the air, right? All this air. This air is dense, right? As far as air goes, okay? That there's stuff in this air, right? And when we go, we would die if there wasn't stuff in this air, right? We would go, what we do is we go, and we take oxygen in, and then our body takes that oxygen and puts it into the bloodstream, and then the bloodstream carries that oxygen to different parts of the body, right? Okay? So and then we got these chemical things going on inside of our body that then turn stuff into other things. Then we breathe out other things than what we breathed in, or in addition to what we breathed in, right? Yeah. The molecules in the air are objects moving through space. A red blood cell in your veins and in your arteries is an object moving through space. Have we broadened our concept here? A car driving down the street, an object moving through space. Okay? Somebody waving their hands at the front of the room. The hand is an object moving through space. Okay? This marker, as I write on the board, is an object moving through space. Okay, so we're good. I've pretty much beat that one to death, right? Yeah. Anything moving. And technically, since the earth is moving,
Everything is moving.
yes.
So we're all
There you go. We are all out there. And the earth is an object literally moving through outer space. Right?
I'm here, come on.
Yes, there you go. And some argue that maybe the universe is moving through space. Yes.
Everything's
Yeah.
expanding.
Yeah.
I wonder if at the edge of the universe.
Yeah. That would be kind of cool.
I
Right?
wonder if it looks like something's approaching you, or if it's just like, or if you're like looking from the universe's perspective, like what's out there.
Either you're moving backwards or it's moving forward.
That's also which way you're looking. If it's coming
Yeah.
towards you, or you're looking with it.
Oh, that's true. Sure. Okay, so, all right. Are we now? Are your minds primed? Now, listen. This is what I need you to do. I want to go back to the swimming pool analogy. You need to stop me if you start splashing around, drowning in the swimming pool. Okay? All right. All right. So here we go. An object moving through space. Every single object in the universe that is moving through space has these 4 qualities. The first quality is position. Every object moving through space has a position. The position of an object can also be called where it is. Where it is. Now, the position of an object mathematically is always relative to some other place. So, I am here, right? But it's hard to say where here is mathematically. It's better to say, okay, we need a focus point. For example, let's say that our focus point is right here. That spot is this for temporarily, for now, for this math problem, that spot is the center of the universe. Got it? Okay, so I, right now, am right of that point. I'm about 10 feet right of that point. So my position, where I am, is 10 feet to the right. Well, from your perspective, the way you're looking up here. Is that to the right? Over there? Okay, good. So I am 10 feet right of that point. We good? Every object moving through space has a position at any particular time. It doesn't stay in that position all the time, but it has a position. And if it moves from that position, guess what? It has a new position. But it always has a position. Are we good? Okay. All right. Position, where it is. Secondly, the second quality that an object moving through space has is direction. An object moving through space has direction.
And that would have been when you said right, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right is a direction, as is
East and west.
east and west are directions. There you go. Left is a direction. Up is a direction. Down is a direction. Forward is a direction. Backward is a direction. All objects moving through space have a direction, even if that direction is no, well, we're getting to that, but even if that direction is no direction. Do y'all understand that? An object can have no direction. Okay? Well, I don't know. Let's think about some 45-year-old dude who's living in his parents' basement, playing video games and watching TV, right? No direction? Okay? But he still exists. He's still an object in motion, right? Okay? Yeah, well, actually, it might not be that sad because I might have just described somebody who accomplishes a lot of good things in this world just for the moment he's watching TV in his parents' basement and lives in his parents' basement. But I have known a few folks who, what's that? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, could be. Yeah, I would live in my parents' basement if I didn't get married. My parents had a basement. My parents stayed in the same house for a long time, and my parents were alive. But all four of those things are false, so I'm not living in my no, I'm all right. I'm good. I'm fine. Yeah, it's fine. Look, my dad died in 2003. My mom died in 2008. I'm good. I'm good. And both of them I knew was eventually going to happen, so I was mentally prepared when they actually happened. So, I mean, I hate to say it this way, but you really should. You guys are about to be adults, right? You need to start preparing that someday your parents are going to die. Just when you get into your 30s, start thinking about it so you're not. Yeah, what's that? Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. My son, he gets so upset when I tell him, bud, I'm not going to live forever, and then he starts getting upset. Yeah.
No, I need to find immortality.
Don't say that. Don't do it.
I mean, it's I'm not trying to be like, I don't do it in a mean way or in a really depressing way, but I want my children to grow up with a healthy view of what human beings are. No, he's all right. He's okay. We don't talk about it very frequently. I just want him to know, So, yeah. So, anyway, all right. So, direction. So here's how we refer to direction mathematically. So any object in motion has direction, and that direction can be none. It has no direction. Okay?
Does that just mean it's stationary?
Yes, that's what it means. Yep. It means it's not moving in any direction at all. It could have positive direction, and it could have negative direction. Those are the only choices. An object in motion is either has no direction, has positive direction, or negative direction. So like, for example, let's say that moving to the right is positive direction. If moving to the right is positive direction, then moving to the left is negative direction. Does that make sense? Okay? All right, good. All right, so an object moving through space has speed. An object moving through space has speed. Okay? So, if it's moving at a particular speed. Okay? It might be moving slowly. It might be moving quickly. But if it's moving, it has a speed. Okay? Now, speed is irrespective of direction. What I mean is it doesn't matter what direction it's going, its speed is always a positive number, a positive value. Okay? So the speed of an object is always a positive value. Okay? And for direction, there's only three possibilities. There's only three possibilities for direction. Positive, negative, or none, which would be zero. Okay? Positive direction, negative direction, or zero. There's only three possibilities. You know how many possibilities there are for speed? An infinite number. Right, because it can be any value, any positive, or excuse me, I should say, hang on, I got to change this. Don't hate me. I forgot. A non-negative value. And if you had, you know why I had to write that?
Because of zero?
Because of zero, that's correct.
Why can't
You
this
should
have said that and zero.
And zero.
I could have said it. I like the phrase a non-negative number. I really like the phrase a non-negative number. Yeah. So now, what's that? Well, no, because the word negative is an adjective of the number, not well, yeah, I guess you're right. No, well, because a negative number itself is, I'm not saying not a number. I'm saying not a negative number. So it's a different kind of, this is a different kind of adjective than this. Yeah. Okay, all right, so an object moving through space has position, it has direction, and it has speed, right? Now, interestingly, say it. No, wait, don't say the fourth yet. I want to still talk about the second and third. No, I thought you were going to tell me about the second and third. Can you hold off on the fourth? Okay. Were you going to say one word? Don't say it yet, but if you were only going to say one word, I want you to wait a little while because I describe the fourth quality differently than most people do. I want to describe it first, then name it. Okay? All right. So look. Can I get y'all? This is super important, like for your test. Okay? Direction and speed in physics and in math are usually combined into a single quality. Now, close. Yes, both of those things. Slope is velocity. That's correct. Velocity. Velocity. And velocity is a slope. Yep. Were you going to say slope?
I did say slope.
That's what I said. Yes, it's a slope. But it's a special kind of slope called velocity. Okay? So when you take the sign of the direction and combine it with the number of the speed, you get the velocity. So an object that has a velocity of negative 35 is moving in a negative direction at a speed of 35. Does that make sense? Okay? But we separate these. There's a very good reason we separate these, and I'll tell you why. Well, you'll see because throughout the next couple weeks or next week or so, we're going to use from time to time the word direction and the word speed, and then in that case you want to separate it out from velocity. Okay? So, here's the deal. Anytime you hear or read the word direction, the next word that should enter your head, is velocity. But whenever you hear the word speed, the next word that should enter your head is velocity. Because if somebody asks you, well, what direction is it traveling? You're going to get the answer to that from the velocity. And if you're asked how fast is it going, what is its speed, you're going to get the answer to that question from the velocity. So an object moving through space has position, direction, and speed, or you can say an object moving through space has position and velocity. Okay? Don't say it, but are we working our way toward the one you were going to say? We are. Okay, good. All right. The fourth quality, and probably one of the most important and most, don't say it, and most because I'm not going to write down what you think I'm going to write down. Even though it is what you're about to say, it's not that. I'm not writing that down yet. Okay. Even though this is a very important quality, it is often very misunderstood unless I explain it to you. Because I can explain it in such a way that it's not so complicated. Okay? The fourth quality that an object moving through space has is, now this is a sentence, ready? It has influence on direction and speed. Let me explain. Meaning, it's moving through space.
Can I just put velocity? Yeah.
Nope, because that's not what velocity is. Hang on. All right. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so watch this. An object. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you mean can you put velocity here?
Yeah.
Can you for now put direction and speed and then later underneath or maybe over top write velocity? There's a good reason I'm saying it's influence on direction and speed, because this is going to make more sense to you if I describe it as influence on direction and speed instead of as influence on velocity. It's going to make more sense. And now I understand what you're saying. Yes. Okay. All right, so look. An object moving through space, a Nerf dart, right? An object moving through space. Or let's say me moving at the front of the room. Let's say that I am moving in a leftward direction, okay? while I'm moving in a leftward direction, okay, a person can walk up here, they can walk, they can get behind me, and they can push me in that direction. What's going to happen? What's going to happen to my speed and what's going to happen to my direction? I'm going to stay in the same direction, but I'm going to speed up, aren't I? Right? Because I'm moving in this direction and I'm being influenced in this direction. Isn't it coming together? Isn't it great? Yeah. Does that make sense? Yes. Yes. Direction and speed. Okay. Now, let's say I'm walking in that direction and someone stands up here. They get in front of me. And even though I'm pushing really hard in that direction, maybe I'm running or trying to run, they stand in front of me and do this to me. Okay? They are influencing me to change direction. What's going to happen to me? What am I going to do? I'm going to slow down. And eventually what's going to happen to me if I'm eventually going to stop, and then possibly what's going to happen? I'm going to change direction. You see? Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, we're getting there. All right. Is this making sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, so typically an object how about a ball rolling across the floor? Isn't there what do you call it? Isn't there friction on the ground that's influencing it to not keep rolling? Right? Friction, right? And so what's ultimately going to happen to the ball? It's going to slow down and stop, right? Yeah. Now what if I roll a ball? Hang on. What if there's a ramp here and I roll the ball up the ramp? What's eventually going to happen? It's going to slow down, stop, and then it's going to roll backwards, right? It's going to change direction, right? The slope, the gravity because of the slope and the friction of rolling against the ground is influence on that ball. It is influence in an opposite direction and an influence to reduce the speed. How are we doing? Is this good? Okay. I'm going to let Brandon say the word because he wanted to say it like 5 minutes ago. Go ahead. I think. Go ahead. Okay. If you don't get it, that's fine. What were you going to say? It's related. Friction is a part of this word. Go ahead. Force affects this word. Acceleration.
That was Mr. Ryan, that was the one I thought of, number 4.
It is. We call. Now listen, here's the thing. Friction is a force that affects acceleration. Right? See, in our class, we're not going to break down acceleration. We're not going to break down acceleration into its parts. We are simply going to say, this is what the acceleration is. Okay? So, and acceleration, a lot of people don't understand what acceleration is. Acceleration, all it is an influence on the direction and speed of an object moving through space. So, if the object is moving in a negative direction, and the object receives negative acceleration, that means it's being pushed in that direction. It will speed up and then as a result, go faster. Oh, that's right. Speed up and continue going in that direction. However, if the object is moving in a rightward direction and receives negative acceleration, the influence, the acceleration, is working against the velocity, which will cause the velocity, the speed first, to decrease and eventually become zero. Zero, and then the object will change direction and move in the other direction. Does that make sense? So, the job of acceleration is simply to apply influence on velocity. Influence is influence. Velocity is the influence on position. Okay? Now, I want you to consider this. So let's think about this. An object, let me ask you something. If an object is moving in that direction, guys, I really need you. I need you for this. We're trying to make the conceptual thing here. If an object is moving in that direction, okay, it's moving in a negative direction, but it is in a positive position. So the position is positive, and the direction, well, let's say that it's in a positive position, and it's moving in a positive direction, and it has a positive influence on velocity, right? What it's going to do is it's going to keep moving in a positive position, or positive direction, and it's going to stay in a positive position. However, something happens. The acceleration changes. The influence on velocity becomes negative. Now the influence is pushing this way. Will the object immediately change direction? No, it's going to keep moving in a positive direction, but it will slow down. And eventually it will stop. And if the negative acceleration, if the influence on velocity stays negative, the object will change direction and then begin moving in a negative direction. Now, when it starts moving in a negative direction, will it be in a negative position? No. It's going to take a little while. It has to get over to the origin and keep moving in a negative direction, and then eventually it will be at a position of 0. Then if it keeps moving in that direction, it will be in a negative position. Do you see that? Okay? So, a person can be in a positive place, moving in a positive direction with good speed, as long as they have positive influence in their life. But as soon as they allow negative influences into their life, they won't change. They'll still be in a positive place. And they will still be moving in a positive direction. But guess what's going to happen? They're going to slow down. And eventually, if they continue with the negative influence in their life, they will eventually change direction. But even if they're changed direction, even if they're moving in a negative direction, they're still in a positive place. And maybe their family's telling them, stop. You're moving in the wrong direction. You're surrounding yourself with negative influences, but you're still in a positive place. There's a chance for you to turn everything around right now, but they don't. They keep moving in a negative direction until eventually they are in a negative place. Okay? Does this make sense? All right?
You just taught us a life lesson in math at the same time.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. So now consider this. Now, let's say I had a friend years ago. Man, he's awesome now. I'm so glad his life has turned around. I haven't really got to get back together with him and hook up with him again. But he lives in. Did I tell you? You heard the story? Yeah. So this friend of mine, he lives in Tennessee, and he's really cool. He's very encouraging, and he's got a couple kids. He's married. Awesome guy. But back in the mid-90s, me and some friends and him, we were all in sort of negative places. But he had gotten addicted to crack cocaine. Yeah, it was, and I've heard the stories about being addicted to crack, how you sell all your belongings, right? He did. He sold everything he had. And because I don't think he understood the addiction. I certainly didn't. I'm sure nobody around him understood the addiction, right? But he was able to turn his life around, and now he's in a really positive place. But consider this. Consider a person who is in that negative place, right? They're in that negative place, moving in a negative direction. Now, you know, you can only move in a negative direction for so long until you crash, because you're just going to keep speeding up. If you surround yourself with negative influences and you're in a negative place and you're moving in a negative direction, all you're going to do is speed up. And the faster you speed up in that negative direction, the sooner it is and the faster it is that you're going to crash. And the faster you're going, the longer it takes you to crash, the more you're going to speed up. And when you finally do crash, it's going to be terrible. So, let's say one day this person has, I don't know, maybe they almost kill a child or something. Something happens to where they suddenly realize things are terrible, right? So you know what they do? They go, let's say, check themselves into rehab. What did they just do here? They changed the acceleration. They're now surrounding themselves with a positive influence. That's right, okay? But just because they checked into rehab, does that mean now they're moving in a positive direction? No, they are still moving in a negative direction. But they're slowing down, which is good. The problem is that for the first 2 or 3 weeks in rehab, they're going to feel terrible. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be terrible. They're not used to doing what other people tell them to do. They're used to doing what they want to do. And just because they had a moment of emotional change, just because they had a moment of emotional change doesn't mean that when they wake up tomorrow, they're still going to feel like they want things to be different. You know what I mean? Okay? So, but if they stick it out, if they keep the positive influence around them, eventually they'll get over the withdrawals and everything. They'll clean up, and then they can slow down, stop, and begin moving in a positive direction, right? Okay, now they've turned around, and because they've surrounded themselves with positive influence. Now, you know what will happen sometimes is these people, because they're moving in a positive direction, they leave rehab and they get back out and they go move into their house and they think everything's fine. Hey, I've turned things around. Sure, you turn things around, but you're still in a negative place. And sometimes these people will go find their friends and say, hey man, I turned my life around. Bad idea, man. You know what you just did? When you went and found your friends? You just surrounded yourself with that same negative influence again. You need to stay away from those people. You need to find lots of positive influence to surround yourself with, because you're still in a negative place, so that you can speed up, and come back from the negative place to a positive place. It can take years, but eventually you find yourself in a positive place where your life is different and where you have, things are good. And then now, this happened to me, something like this. I never did crack, but I drank alcohol a lot. I partied a good bit. But look, thankfully, I'm not kidding you when I say, listen, this was my life. I was in a just negative position, okay? I was in a place that I had never been in my life, ever. I was always like the nice guy who was kind to me. I did good things, did the right thing. I started getting to the point where I was like, I don't care about other people. I've cared about people for so long, I don't care about people anymore. Nobody cares about me. Why should I care about them? I'm serious. This is where I was. So I had just gotten into a negative place. This is like, I don't know, probably, what's that? No, that was when I was 16. No, this is more like when I was about 22 years old. I was about 22, okay? And I'm like, I had just gotten into a negative place, and let me tell you, I was moving in a negative direction, okay? And I had surrounded myself with negative influence. Now, these friends, I cared about them. I loved them in a way as friends, right? But they were not a good influence on me. And I chose to hang out with people who all they really wanted to do is enjoy the moment now. So even though I had never really done anything illegal, I was on my way there. Okay? I was on, you guys have heard about the idea of gateway drugs and things like that. Think about it. Gateway drug. Oh, well, I'm not really in a place where I'm going to try crack, but maybe I'll, smoke pot or, try, some, back in the day. See, back in the mid-90s, it was ecstasy was the big deal. Ecstasy was a big deal. Yeah. So, yeah.
Do you know that the national, health, whatever they were called, they actually stopped listing marijuana as a gateway drug and actually listed it as an exit drug?
That's interesting. So what you're saying, well, yeah.
effects of withdrawal from hard.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so it depends on how it's being used, right? How would we classify it for somebody who has never done drugs before?
I'm not here for it.
Let's just leave that as a philosophical point. Let's leave that as a philosophical. So somebody who has never entered, then, you know what I mean? Just a thought. Okay. Personally, I would say that alcohol is a gateway drug. Because, what's that? Yeah, well, here's the thing is, people can consume alcohol in a healthy way. I know lots of people that do, but some people, my father included, over-consume. They rely on alcohol to give them something that it shouldn't. Okay, so hang on. All right, by the way, let me clarify something here, guys. I am making statements that have been made in society. I am not here to tell you what is right and wrong. I'm merely trying to use life as an opportunity to understand object motion, okay? So look, so here we go. So in my life, what happened was things started getting worse. The speeds picked up, the direction got pretty bad. But what eventually happened, here's what happened, is the influences in my life. I decided to stop hanging out with certain people. It's not that I didn't like them. I thought they were great people. They were my friends. However, they had a negative influence on my life. I started hanging out with people who were a positive influence on my life. I started doing things that were a positive influence on my life. And what eventually happened is I changed direction. I started speeding up in a positive direction. I came out of my negative position. I came to a positive place until I am the man that stands before you now. I believe I'm in a positive place. Thanks. Appreciate it. But here's the thing. I promise you, today, I could, if I chose to, I could leave work today and go indulge in something that is a negative influence. And I promise you, it wouldn't take very long to change my direction, speed up in a negative direction, and be in a negative place. It wouldn't take very long at all. There's a song from a band. What's the name of the band? Hang on. Never really thought about this. I didn't even say this in the class the other day, but it just hit me now. There's a band called Casting Crowns. Some of y'all may have heard of Casting Crowns. They have a song called Slow Fade. Okay? It's called Slow Fade. If you ever want to listen to it, it's really interesting. And the video is also very interesting. The video is like a backwards, like they do the story in the video backwards. It's basically a story about a man who's very happy with his wife and kids, and over time, making little tiny bad decisions, winds up, I think, like getting divorced, doing stuff he shouldn't do, and the whole family gets broken up. Yeah. It's not a good thing. I believe they start off with here's your terrible life. Let's go backwards and see all the things that happened that led up to this. You know what I mean? Okay? And I refuse to let that happen with my wife and kids. I refuse to let it happen. Therefore, what is my job? Is my job to focus on where I am? Is my job to focus on my direction or my speed? No. This is why your parents say to you, don't hang out with that person. Okay? And you say, oh, they're not that bad, right? They're not in a bad place. No, they're in a positive place. That kid's in a positive, that other person's in a positive place. But your parents can see, yeah, there you go. It's not where you are, it's where you're going. But even if you're going in a bad place, you can turn it around. Just change that influence in your life. Okay? All right. So, objects in motion are the same thing. The object is moving this way. All you have to do is apply influence this direction. Is it going to change right away? How mad do you get when somebody makes a positive change in their life, but then it doesn't turn around right away? You're like, hey man, I thought you made changes in your life. Oh man, you're just back to your old shenanigans again. It's like, no, be patient with them. Give them some time. Let them stick with it, give them a chance to turn it around. And even if they're in a negative place, wait until they get into a positive place. So, okay. How are we doing okay? All right. Where are we at? 10:46. Okay. So, velocity. Okay. So, you ready? Now I need to give you what you have to know for math class. All right. Ready? Yeah. Okay. Velocity. Velocity is the influence on position. Acceleration is the influence on velocity. Okay? In a calculus class, what's that? It's going to have something to do with, that's right. And since this is an application of derivatives got to come in somewhere, right? Okay. In calculus, in physics, velocity is the derivative of position. Acceleration is the derivative of velocity. It's probably something you should write down. Because everything we're going to do with this is going to have something to do with velocity as a derivative of position and acceleration as a derivative of velocity. Okay. We know derivatives, right?
Yes.
Basically. If you know the position function of an object, see what we'll do is we will frame the position of an object over time as a function, as an input-output. Okay?
Yep.
If you know that function, if you know that at time 7 the object is 17 feet from the origin, but at time 9 the object is 12 feet from the origin, right? So you can map the position of the object over time, back and forth, right? If you have that function, all you have to do is take the derivative, apply the derivative rules, and you will have the velocity. Then, now that you have the velocity function, if you apply the derivative rules to the velocity function, you will have the acceleration
So
function.
velocity is the derivative of position.
Correct.
And then the acceleration acceleration is the derivative of velocity.
That's correct. Go ahead, Daniel.
Is this gonna be like word problem? I knew it.
Yep. Now, not today, but tomorrow. Today I'm going to give you this piece of paper before you leave today. Today I'm going to give you this piece of paper. Okay? Tomorrow I'm going to, with great detail, explain to you what each one of these things means. Okay?
So we don't have homework.
Right. Now, let's rephrase. You don't have homework, but I do have an assignment for you tonight. Okay, now we still got 30 minutes here, guys, so don't pack up or anything. Your assignment tonight is to read these questions. I want you to get an idea of the kinds of things you're going to be asked. Okay? All right. So the summary of this whole lesson, folks, the summary of everything we've done so far, and I'm about to change out, I'm going to switch up the video because I'm going to do it in 2 chunks because the second part is a related lesson, or we're going deeper, but it's not this, and I have to break them up into different size videos. So the summary of this lesson is this, is that all objects, an object moving through space has position, velocity, and acceleration, and that the velocity of that object is the rate of change, or the derivative, or the slope of the position, the derivative of the position, and that the acceleration is the derivative of velocity. And if acceleration is the derivative of velocity, and velocity is the derivative of position, well then what else can we say? Well, not the derivative, but what's that? Acceleration is the second derivative of position. There you go. Yeah, so that's what you meant to say, right? Yeah. Okay, are we good?